Hi lovely and darling viewers, it's Jen here at Check Her Joy. This time I'm reviewing Definitely the Best Dogs of All Time by Jadan Carroll with illustrations by Molly Dyson. This is an overview book of 42 of the best dogs of all time, and they range from every kind of dog you can imagine. From dogs in ancient mythology, to philosophical dogs, to explaining the constellations, to more recent dogs like internet memes and dogs that have saved people and have been particularly devoted or particularly famous. So we're looking at dogs like Rin Tin, which was like a movie star, and Balto, which led this expedition that ended up bringing medicine to this town in Alaska and saving tons of children. We have the Chinese zodiac dog and explaining the mythology around that dog. So just any kind of dog you can possibly imagine. There's like 40 of them. So they each have a little biography or explanation about what that dog is, why they're important, and also these really amazing illustrations. So I thought I would just really quickly go over like 6 of my favorite ones. And the first one in the book is Cerberus. This is Hades' dog that guards the entrance to the underworld in Greek mythology. It's one of my favorite dogs to begin with, but I loved the explanation of who Cerberus is, where he fits in. There were other like dogs that he's related to, like his older brother Orpheus, and just I loved getting to see him. Also, they're kind of adorable pictures. Some of these, if they're actual real dogs, they have like actual photographs in there too. But I love the illustrations that Molly Dyson does and kind of explaining it. And yeah, on this page we got a double one. We have Nietzsche's dog, which is just an existential exercise. Nietzsche like imagines all his pain as being a dog. That one's not really interesting to me, but it is in here if you're a philosophy person. The one on the opposite page is the Greyfriars Bobby dog, which I found absolutely an adorable story. So this is the dog that belongs to like a police constable, a detective in Scotland in the 1800s, and so he used to follow his owner around everywhere, wherever he went. And when his owner dies, he ends up standing guard at his owner's grave, and just stays there until he dies and becomes the celebrity within the town, and people like look after him. When there's a ordinance passed in the town that all the dogs need to have collars, one of the politicians in the area adopts the dog and like puts a collar on him, but he still gets to live like in the graveyard. And when he does die, they erect a statue to the dog overlooking his master's grave, which is just, it's everything about the story, which is so cute. Basically, the point of this book is that dogs are like the best, honestly. Some of these were a little bit disappointing in their explanations, hence why I have a masterpiece on here. It's a pretty good story. Like, Masterpiece's story in here is pretty solid. In the 1950s, Masterpiece was this very famous poodle. She? I can't remember if Masterpiece is a girl or a boy. Anyway, Masterpiece becomes uber famous, becomes the icon that makes all the other celebrities want poodles, starts off this craze, and Masterpiece goes mysteriously missing one day. This woman in red just walks into the store, and Masterpiece follows her out, and then neither one of them is ever seen from again, and nobody knows what happened to Masterpiece. And it's a really awesome story, and there are way better explanation, like way better, like this book, because it's so short, doesn't properly get into how awesome the mystery piece around Masterpiece is. So there is actually a little thing on here even saying like go check out this podcast if you want more. But yeah, I felt like some of them were just not, like, because we're so short, we don't properly get into some of these dogs. Speaking of other dogs that didn't necessarily have a happy ending, we have Lenka, who is a Soviet space dog. This is, I think, the first mammal in space. So we're in the middle of the space race. The US and Russia are, like, competing to see who can get into space first, get to the moon first, do all these first. And Russia ends up beating us by having the first dog in space, so this is the first, like, mammal. But Lenka was shot into space. I mean, just a random street dog that they found and just stuck it in a rocket and shot it up there. There's no return plan for it. Lenka ends up dying in space. Ends up actually dying a horrific death of overheating because there's no cooling in the space rocket. And so Lenka's an awesome, like, cute dog, but also like a really sad story, but also space. And I love the fact that it's included in here and really doesn't gloss over how awful it was for her, even though we've only got 2 pages to explain it. I found Rin Tin's page, so we can talk about him. Rin Tin was a movie star in the 1920s and 30s, and just really became the sensation of, like, it's silent movies and stuff, and, like, this is the first dog actor who, like, really took off, and everybody knew Rin Tin. So I loved getting to see that, like, celebrity status, getting to hear more about it. And then there were some lesser-known stories, so I really liked the story of the Moscow Metro dogs. So in Moscow, there's apparently a bunch of, like, stray dogs that just wander the street, not surprisingly. Several of them have taken to living in the stations, and about 20 of them have learned how to navigate the metro system and get on and off the trains on their own and recognize which stops are which based on, like, scents and, like, sounds and, like, listening to, like, the people, on the announcers on the radio, and, like, they can navigate and get around the city entirely using the subway system, which I think is just the most adorable, and definitely not a story I was expecting. So this book surprised me. It just sounded so cute. Those are clearly not the only dogs in this book. Like I said, there's 40-something of them. There are definitely adorable dogs, and dogs are amazing. And even though I'm, like, a cat person, also, dogs are adorable too. So I definitely loved reading this book. It's definitely like a 5 stars out of 5 stars. And I do highly recommend finding and picking up Definitely the Best Dogs of All Time by Jadan Carroll, if you can find it, because it just is so cute, and just, I love dogs, and it was just exactly what I needed to, like, feel better about life and the universe with everything else that's happening, and just being like, oh, but we have dogs, so it can't be that bad. Let me know in the comments below if you have read this book, or if you've read anything similar. What are your favorite dog stories? Famous dogs, fictional dogs, doesn't matter. Dogs are the best. Yeah. So, there's my take on this. So, peace out. I love you guys, and keep reading. Bye.